As we look to a more prosperous future together, I'd like to emphasize that we in the United States would like to establish broad and deep commercial and business ties with your country across the full range of sectors in your economy. But I also would like to assure you that our efforts here are also part of a larger regional strategy to integrate this country with trade to China, India, and Southeast Asia.
Burma was under a military dictatorship for half a century. But after its recent opening to the West and its positive reforms, the United States began to ease sanctions on the country. This embrace between the United States and Burma is seen as a deepening of business ties and of deeper pockets. Today, the House hearing evaluates U.S. engagement with Burma while there remains serious human rights violations in the country. You spoke about responsible investment in there, and then there was a picture of Assistant Secretary Jose Fernandez shaking hands with one of the cronies of Burma. What is your explanation on responsible investment? And is this picture, somebody had said it's worth 1,000 words, but do you think it's a picture of the U.S. yielding to Burma's military?
I wouldn't make too much of that. The fact is that we are holding the line in a whole range of ways and saying American businesses cannot invest with military corporations. We've got a range of reporting requirements that I described that are going to make it important for companies to take a look at environmental, labor, and human rights, due diligence requirements. So we're going to be very mindful of who we're dealing with. We've got SDN, we have sanctions on a number of the cronies, and we're not going to yield on that. These are things that we really care about.
You said that you agreed with some things that Michael Posner had said, but you didn't agree with most of the things that he had said. Can you elaborate on what issues you had a problem with?
Well, one of the biggest issues I had was the misrepresentation of the U.S.'s engagement with the ethnic minorities. We feel as if there has been very little engagement, that they have not been in a concerted public dialogue with them to show how much the U.S. is actually concerned about that issue and actually values their input and opinions, and that U.S. policy, like U.S. policy refers to Aung San Suu Kyi, that it should do the same with the ethnic nationalities. And at this moment, he basically was stating it does, when in reality that's not the case.
Today's hearing was mainly on U.S. investment in the country, and just this week there were 50 U.S. American companies investing in Burma, and one company CEO had said, "I feel like I was on a landmine field because I'm scared. I don't know whether I can do direct investment. The U.S. might take it away at any time soon." What do you think responsible investment is?
Well, I think responsible investment is recognizing that there are people who should not be removed from the SDN list and they should not do business with. I think they must recognize that there needs to be input from local communities and ethnic leaders where they do investment. That this is not just about finding the best hooked up business partner inside Burma, but that investment is supposed to have a positive impact. And that means engaging with the communities and only doing investment that will have a positive benefit and not exacerbate current human rights concerns in the country.
Rhetoric. Let's talk about U.S. American rhetoric. It sounds great, right? Burma reforms, U.S. engagement, this whole embrace, this relationship from friends to foe. But you said that it's all rhetoric and it's not enough practice. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because I feel as if people are getting excited because for the first time, the economy can start rolling up again.
Well, I think the issue here is there's an overemphasis on investment, economic development, and there is not enough focus on these sanctions were imposed for political and human rights reasons. And there were benchmarks set out in this legislation, set out in UNGA resolutions, Human Rights Council resolutions, that all said what needed to take place in Burma for it to be considered a genuine democracy, national reconciliation. Those benchmarks have not been met. And so the concern we have is that critical leverage has been lost in removing economic sanctions before political gains and guarantees have been made. And so this is what we've heard time and time again from the ethnic nationalities is how are they going to change the constitution if there's no more sanctions in place that say we will lift this sanction when you make these changes and guarantee ethnic rights.
Were you happy with this panel? Were you content, or what were the things that you liked about it?
No, I was very happy. I work with the other witnesses. There is a consensus in the human rights NGO community. I was happy that ANO was able to come here so that we had a representative from Burma. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to do the same, where we can bring people from Burma to be able to give that voice of what it is that the people from Burma, particularly those who are suffering the most still, can have input in U.S. Burma policy.
Well, President Thein Sein is maybe a good person who wants to reform, but we have seen many times that he's declared for ceasefire with the KIA, but it's ignored. And so it is clear that change in Burma will not happen by encouraging one or two reformer. We need constitutional reform.